an old Viking settlement that was founded in around like the 1970s. It's located on was a lot larger area located on the riverbank of Dublin. So in the 1970s, they started finding artifacts from when Vikings came and settled here in Dublin, like we've seen all throughout the way. There was a wide assortment of different just relics that they found from when they set up and they had their whole little area. So as these artifacts were being discovered, Professor F.X. Martin decided to start a campaign to show the significance and how this is part of Dublin's roots. And something that was really interesting was that at the time, a lot of people in Dublin were really trying to preserve the Celtic and Anglo history, and so this was the Norse history that they were starting to discover that they knew happened, but nothing for certain. So this professor started a campaign for it, and in June of 78, it was declared a national monument by the Ireland High Court. So even though this was declared a national monument and architects came and historians came to find out more history about the Norse, it was still owned by the Dublin Corporation, which was the government in a way, and so they still actually owned the land. And right after it was declared a national monument, they actually decided to start building their headquarters there. They were able to do this because of a little loophole in it that said that the government was able to build on the land if needed for a specific purpose, and the purpose was for a headquarters and for a big building. So in 1981 they started construction, but before that, in the late 70s, it was around 79, huge protests started to happen to try and save the Viking settlements and save all the artifacts that were here. There were two different marches that happened. One in 1978 in September was known as the Quay protest. And between this one and another one, there were about 20,000 people that came from historians, architects, and just the regular people of Dublin who wanted to preserve the history. Unfortunately, they did not win, but they were able to preserve and still try and keep a lot of the history here today.
So, as Lizzie was mentioning, in the late 1700s, of all these protests, one of the biggest protesters who was involved in that was the president at the time, Mary Robinson, and she, was very passionate about, preserving this area and keeping part of this Dublin history. In the late 1700s and early 1800s, is when they found this wall that was still existing, which is still within the building now. And it sits behind a glass, and it's about 20 feet and can be observed. And so now the space is mainly used for conferences and exhibits and performances, and one of the really cool events that take place here over the summer is they do outdoor concerts during lunchtime, so they're still holding on to this historical monument. However, they're using it for the Dublin city to be able to have observed